Okay, good morning. Uh, I saw something on, excuse me, this is Ron. It's Sunday morning, and we are beginning our study. Before we ask any questions, I just want to mention to you, I saw something on television a couple of nights ago where a gentleman was talking about slavery in America and what we're up against, and the longevity of it, and some of the frustrations and whatnot. Job wise and poverty and those sort of things. And then I heard a guy this morning who is an author, and he was talking about trying to erase 400 years of of slavery and this mindset. And it dawned on me uh, the importance of what we do and the things that we talk about. And from the perspective of if you had if you had poison ivy growing in your yard, you would not try to alleviate that or get rid of it by shearing it down from the ground up. You would have to uproot it. You'd have to find something to do to kill the root of it. So to think of trying to just change things from a political perspective from the last 400 years in South Carolina is not uprooting it because, as we know, this thing started long before that. This mindset is gone on long before there was an America. So I thought about that and all the efforts that have gone forth to try to right America. Uh, that it's a lot of energy and a lot and it's not in vain. I realize that as well, but I'm just saying that it kind of pointed a light to me as to what we're doing and the importance of it, because we're trying to find the beginning, as we've talked about for years now, going back to beginning, and that is the truth of everything, going back to the genesis of it and finding the root of it, and whether that be something we consider enlightening or something that is needs to be uprooted. Uh, that kind of points to what we do. So I just wanted to share that with you because I thought it's important what we're doing on this phone, uh, sort of highlights, if you will, the efforts that men and our forefathers and ancestors have been doing for generations now. I think this kind of sheds a new light on it. So just thought I'd share that with you. Um, on yesterday,
Ron,
yes, ma'am.
good morning. This is Evelyn.
Hey,
Since we're
Evelyn.
sharing, slavery and everything, I was looking at an article on TikTok and they were showing how Russia, Putin, they opened the oldest vault in Russia and they had artifacts and pictures of Jesus and those biblical figures were melanated people.
Oh,
I thought that was interesting. Yeah, yeah.
okay.
And he was telling them, we're the ones we're the ones who are at the top, not the top, saying that we're better than anybody, but melanated people. But I thought that was interesting. And the fact that we're talking about this, we're
Yeah.
putting it out there in the universe. Yeah. But yeah, I just wanted to share that as well. Thank you.
Thank you. I have not seen that. Thank you for sharing. Thank you. Um, Let me say this before I ask any questions. On yesterday, we started off talking about. I mentioned to you a friend uh, who was kind of, I won't say venting, but just sometimes you just need to say things, just kind of discuss things, but uh, out loud that her life, by all circumstances, looks perfect. Uh, having healthy kids and kids doing well in school and husband with a good job and everything seems to be fine, nice house. And she's just feeling like she's drowning. She's overwhelmed by life and circumstances and losing herself in the process of being mom, in the process of being an employee and being a wife and whatever else is pulling her in different directions. And I thought that was something worthy to talk about. Life does catch up with us. And then it made me think of is there a correlation of when we say time seems to be getting shorter, things are the days, the years are going by faster. So we looked at that yesterday when we looked at Second Kings. We looked at chapter 20, and when Hezekiah was dying, and God gives him 15 more years. And we talked about that from the time perspective. We looked at it spiritually. We talked about the role of women and what is expected, what is demanded uh, of women. We talked about the view that Hezekiah is getting a wake-up call, uh, the role that we play in the spirituality that we're in, and the role of the Assyrians in our life, those things that close in us, those things that keep us pressed in. Uh, so that's where we were yesterday. And I thought that was a very good discussion because it opened up so much more. Uh, and you know, at the end of it, Pastor said something that he said before, but yesterday, I guess I had ears to hear it in a different way. But he said, you know, if my leaving him, his leaving here, what open things up for mankind again. He said a little different than what I'm saying it, but he do it in a heartbeat. And that really kind of resonated with me. It kind of caught my attention as to where we are, what we do, and how important this is to us. So, any thoughts and questions on this? Any thoughts and questions on anything else that may have gotten your attention?
Good morning, Ron. This is Jackie.
Hey, Jackie.
And hey, good morning. And just a quick question regarding like your friend that was venting and just feeling a little overwhelmed. I guess we all go through that at some point, and then we have to. And I feel like in the past for me, we always have that person that we can call and just pull us back once we are venting. And then we realize, you know, once we vent and get it out, it's not as bad as we think it is. And then it helps me to realize that I'm not alone. You know, once you share your story or you start talking and then that's when you realize, you know what, I'm not alone. So now when I feel a little overwhelmed, I ask God to not take it from me, but to get me through it. And then I realize I'm not alone. And then that leads me to go so far as to say, you know, okay, God, give them strength as well, you know, the people that are going through, because just to know that I'm not alone, because, you know, random people, you know, they cross your path for a reason. And you just start sharing, you just strike up a conversation, and then you guys start talking, and then you realize, wow, you think I got it bad, or I'm going through right now. So just what you told me about your friend, just you mentioning that has helped me, and I don't, you know, have to know the whole story, but it just lets me know, you know, we are not alone, and we are our brother's keeper. And it just kind of keeps us going. Once we get through this, you know, we can just keep praying and putting it out there in the universe to give those people strength too, because we all go through at some point. I just wanted to share. I'm done. Thank you.
I couldn't agree more, Jack. And it reminded me of a situation. I know a guy I met in a doctor's office. As a matter of fact, he works for a doctor that I go to, and he and I became friends. But he was talking about growing up in wealth and living in a big house and being an only child and being he was so lonely. Both his parents were on drugs. They either drunk or high, but they were wealthy. And he befriended this girl who used to come to these big parties he used to throw. And he and the girl became friends, and they lost touch with each other. And they met again some years later. In fact, a couple of years ago, they met up again in that same doctor's office and got to talking. Now, he came from wealth and she came from extreme poverty. She lived in a trailer, right? But they had the same situation. Both their parents were on drugs and alcoholics. And she came to his parties searching for the same thing that reason he was throwing the parties. And they became good friends, kind of latching on to each other for comfort. And it just goes to show you how God works things without you seeing it, without you knowing what's going on in your life. Sends you a lifeline and you not even see it. But and I'm leaving out a bunch of details of it, but I just thought that was kind of fascinating. Uh, the other part of that is we we do this 3 times a week, but the value of what we do is immeasurable because there's not a time like we did yesterday. There's nothing that is off limits that we can't talk about. There is nothing that is troubling you that we won't try to address anyway. And it may be something that you need to talk to pastor about, or as Jackie said, call somebody or talk to somebody on the line that you trust, but that you can vent to or whatever. But this is has immeasurable value to me, and I look forward to it for that reason. Uh, as she said, she felt better. I feel better too when we do this. So, but thank you for sharing, Jackie. Anyone else?
Yeah, good morning, Ron. Good morning, everyone.
Morning, George.
I too, just want to, again, appreciate the conversation thus far in terms of just being able to vent, just being able to reach out to each other. And as we explore the scriptures, we can look at, the term resiliency, the ability to be able to recover quickly from adversity or something that we may be going through, but one of the inner strengths, is reaching out. And I believe that, we're in a study where we are getting to not only know each other better, but as you say, Ron, just to be able to reach out to one another.
Yeah.
Has been a blessing for us as we look at the Bible and just see how, there's many, parables or stories in terms of those who were in adversity situations, but how did they recover? How did they overcome? And so I think it's all for that purpose of what we're talking about now, appreciating this time that we all have together. I just wanted to share those thoughts. Thank you.
Thank you, George. I couldn't agree more. Anyone else? Doesn't have to be about this.
And one more thing, Ron,
I'm sorry.
Jackie again. I just wanted to add that I am learning that what we're going through is not for us. I've known it, but now I'm realizing it. This is for you to help someone else, or for you to share, and it is so good. I'm thankful too, George, as you mentioned, that we can share and talk with each other and just share whatever without any judgment, because again, we all go through at some point. But I'm glad and I'm thankful. I'm always grateful for the relationship that we have on this line, because I know, even though I don't talk to Miss Barbara every day, but I know if I called her, she would be there for me, So, and then, so the lessons and the teaching I'm always thankful that, as Pastor would always say, we may not can regurgitate it at right now, but we can at some point apply it to our everyday lives. And I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. This is Barbara. You made an excellent point. We cannot regurgitate it, and that's the key. If we try to regurgitate it, we're doing it out of our mind, out of what we remember, and we contain it within our words, the limitations of our words. But when we just respond to someone out of the depth of our heart, that goes beyond trying to regurgitate. That's responding out of our experience, which is a spiritual kind of thing. So thank you for that reminder that this is not about regurgitation at all.
Yeah. And if I
You're
may,
welcome.
Barbara, just to reiterate what you just said, I think that this is, again, how we were taught to look at it from, the mind of psychology. But as you're saying, if we're looking at it more from the heart soul, then this is what is giving us the breakthroughs that we can see that we have the power within, to be able to really go to the soul of the individual, the heart of the individual, to see the kind of manifestations of our desires. So the heart soul, something I just wanted to, again, appreciate what you said, Barbara. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, George. Yeah, there is strength that we pull from each other, and I think that we give to the universe. And there are times when people vent or say things to me at work, I feel kind of helpless because I always feel like I not necessarily can help everybody, but that's who I am. I do feel like I want to be able to help you, and maybe that's not always the role I need to take, but I think there is great value to her anyway in what we're doing right now, and I hope she feels some peace and release, and I'll talk to her again just to make sure she's okay. But thank you. I think the heart of this group, it speaks volumes every time we look at something like this. I feel the energy of this group, and the sympathy we have for mankind, and the empathy for what people go through, and the love and the prayers that goes with that. So thank you. I value that. Anything else before I say what else? I want to make sure.
Ron,
Yes, sir.
I just want to let you guys know that I'm on, but I don't know how long I will be on. Okay.
Well, that's where I was going to get at. I wanted to go back. I wanted you to, if you would, please. I have felt that there's something more with your dream, and I wanted you to state it one more time, if you will, and why you do have a couple minutes, and let's see if we have a question or something from that. Would you please, sir?
Okay. I'll do my best. The dream was about me being transported. Barbara was setting up a meeting for us. And when we got to the meeting, it was in a building, but it was not your normal building, like with bricks and stuff. It was a building, it was light, but it was a building. And the meeting was set up for a guest speaker. And when the guest speaker and a guest preacher and I arrived, the building was packed. And the preacher delivered the message. Don't know what the preacher said, but he delivered the message, and I found myself away from him. We were separated from each other, and I saw a book lying on the floor, and there were two hands on the book, and the hands were light, and they begun to swirl, and as they swirled, they rose up from the book, and the next thing I can remember happening, because I wrote it down, but I'm not at home currently. I remember that was one of my friends' first train was sitting on the pew, but also I remember the preacher coming to me, and we were about to go back to where we had come from, and the preacher said he was going to drive, and I'm like, how'd you get your car? He said, I had it sent to him. And the car was yellow with a black interior. And we got in the car, and the guest speaker was driving, and we got lost. We got lost trying to find our way back to where we came from. And when we tried to go back to where the event took place, we got lost. And while we were lost, I could hear the voices of the teachers. Matter of fact, I could hear all of them, but there was one distinctive voice I heard. It was Catherine's voice, and I knew that they were looking for me. They were trying to find me, and then the next thing I remember is that we were back at the event, but no one was in the driver's seat of the car. And I remember saying to Train, get out, get in the driver's seat, but he could not get out. But we were back where we were, and no one was in the driver's seat. That's as much as I can remember right
Um,
Good morning, Ron.
Yes, ma'am.
Are you getting ready to ask a question?
No, ma'am. Go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, I just have a thought, Pastor. I've been thinking about, good morning, everyone. I'm sorry, this is Kathy. I've been thinking about the stream and what you said, and I've been really pondering it and putting pieces together. I don't fully understand what I've been shown, but I want you to add context to something, if you can, for me, some clarity to what I've been thinking. As I thought about everything that you said, I began to see this as the journey of religion, because you said the pastor was, well, I think we all agreed that the pastor that was preaching the message was representative of religion. So what I saw from what you were saying is that originally I thought the light, which is Kemet, drove religion out. But then when you tell the story again, and as Ron has pointed out before, religion drove itself out of being relevant to humanity into a place where it could not return from. And as a result of religion driving itself out of humanity's, and I'm just going to say point of view, or out of humanity's view, where it was no longer relevant. I'm looking at everything that you're saying and how you're putting it together. And what I'm seeing, I see the black interior of the car as a womb. And hearing the female voice crying out, I see that as feminine energy, the womb of feminine energy, birthing an opportunity for the light, which is Kemet, to reappear without any distractions, without being driven in the wrong direction, or without being covered over, so that the light of Kemet could take its rightful place and provide enlightenment to all the seekers of truth. And so I'm looking at how religion had covered over that light of Kemet. But when the voice cried out, or when you heard the feminine voice, it birthed an opportunity for the light to reestablish itself, because the light was never lost. It was just covered over and trying to be misdirected. But now we have taken that cover off that light, and now we are being shown all of the enlightenment that is available to us that we've always had, but just was covered over by religion. And so I wanted you to add context and to see if I'm saying it the right way, and how this opportunity has been birthed for us now to step into the identity of who we really are, and to recognize the light that is Kemet, what that means to us, and why it is so important for us to understand this enlightenment and to move forward in that. So could you speak to that for just a moment? Am I seeing that the right way?
It fits the narrative, and yes, I do believe you are seeing it the right way. There are so many messages in this. The message that you received from this, the message that Audrey received when she talked about the yellow card, the message that everyone received from this is a right message. What you just said about the light being covered, Jesus said, no one lights a candle and covers it with a bushel basket. The light was covered. Jesus was referencing enlightenment, and enlightenment emanates from Kemet. So when you mention the light being covered, I see that this is a reference to what Jesus was teaching. Even there's the allegory that teaches us not to cover our light, and teaches us that our light has been covered, but now it's being seen again. I'm going to say something that I've been reluctant to say. Not James Richard, but I am the light of Kemet. I was shown this for a reason, and I was brought to the event place where we were, minus the religious attributes that I once fostered. I am the light of Kemet. I do not believe that there is any religious pull on me anymore. I do not believe that any of us have to acquiesce to any of the energy of religion at all. I do believe that we are at a place where we can no longer say that, yeah, I have a little religion in me. As long as you give it energy, it's going to remain there. I'm not giving it energy. And this vision that I had showed me that I was in the midst of religion. I was the guest speaker, and I was the one who Barbara made way for to be there with the guest preacher. That shows me that the religious preacher that I was no longer exists. The only thing that exists with me now is the I am the light of Kemet. Does that help you, Kathy?
It does, Pastor. And I see Kemet as enlightenment. Can you speak to that? Am I seeing that the right way as well?
You cannot be enlightened without the light of Kemet. Kemet is not just a geographical location, as we have thought, looking at it historically. We did not look at it through the eye. We saw it with our eyes, and we saw it with our eyes because it had been erased from history, or that's an attempt, to erase it from history. Kemet is a concept. It is a concept of a consciousness of the African, because Kemet means land of the black, consciousness of the African. And whether we like it or not, the reality of it is that Kemet is the center of all enlightenment. There was no coincidence or accident that the Hakupata, the heel of Ptah, was there in Kemet. The heel of Ptah speaks to the elevation of divinity, and because there is divinity was elevated, embraced, and reverenced. There is no enlightenment that does not have its genesis, its origin in Kemet. All enlightenment comes from Kemet. Does that help you?
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions about this? Comments?
Yeah. Good morning. This is Audrey.
Good morning.
Sorry, I'm trying to get my camera on. What I mentioned to you before about the Merkaba, when the hands were swirling, I did some more research on that, and a Merkaba is basically represents like a transformation or an ascension to higher consciousness. And the word for it is actually used in Ezekiel, where Ezekiel saw this.
Chariot.
The word in the Ezekiel is called a chariot, but in Hebrew the word is the Merkaba. So it's like it's believed to allow people to transcend to higher realms of consciousness. And it comes from basically the sacred geometry from the mystery schools in Kemet. Physically, it's kind of a tetrahedron, two tetrahedrons that are connected together, but they spin in opposite directions. Merkaba comes from an ancient Egyptian word that means 3 words. Mer means light, Ka means spirit, and Ba means body. So it's combined to show an integration of body, mind, spirit, light. And it's believed to be a source of spiritual power. So anyway, just wanted to add that.
So Audrey,
Yes.
are you seeing the car as a Merkaba, a chariot?
No, the hands.
The hands are the Merkaba.
Yeah, the hands and
Yes.
the light swirling up from the hands.
Okay. Any questions or comments about that? Thank you, Audrey.
You're welcome.
Questions, comments?
Well, that
question
really,
is, I'm sorry.
I'm sorry. Go.
No, I was just going to ask, could the car be a Merkaba? That you asked that question, could it have been as well?
No, because the car was yellow, and the color yellow represents logical thinking. And remember, in the dream, the car took them somewhere, but they couldn't come back. They couldn't come back to the place of light in the car.
Okay, that makes sense. Thank you.
what you just said relates directly to something I think Pastor said last time when we were talking about this on the 17th, that the hands represent authority. And so it's like Merkaba, the body, the spirit, and what did you say? The light, the spirit, and the body.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That all of that rests in the authority of you, Pastor, because you are enlightenment and Kemet. You are Kemet.
Wow.
Okay.
Thank you. Oh boy. I don't know what to say now. The journey in search of the place we came from, or that I came from, was looking for religion in vain. And being in the car with no driver means that it was spiritually driven. The Elohim of God, our creator, she is the one who guided us to that place, back to the event, the building of light. And the voice of God, the directions of God, Barbara represented the guidance of God to a place of light. Kathy represented the voice of God guiding us, bringing us back to the place where we were supposed to be. Excuse me. That tells me something definitively. I am going to do my best to reference our Creator with the pronoun she as opposed to he, because it is from a she that all of us came into this earth, and it is God who placed us in this earth. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Yes.
But say it again.
That I said that Barbara set the event up at this building of light, and that was God guiding us to this place of enlightenment. And when we left in the car with the religious preacher driving, the reason I could not understand and remember the message is because it represented all religious messages. Got lost, couldn't find a way back to religion. And when we got back to the place after hearing the voice call us back, in search of us, that's the voice of God speaking in a still small voice, bringing us back to the place of enlightenment. And because of that, I see both as being God. I see God as a she, and because it is God who brought us into this earth from the womb. Does that make sense? Does that help you with clarity, Audrey?
Yes, because in the Merkaba, the tetrahedron that points down represents masculine energy. Sorry, the one that points up represents masculine energy, and the one that points down represents female energy. So they're all interconnected too. So yes, it could be that.
Thank you.
Pastor, I have a question if no one else does.
Go ahead.
How does what we're talking about pertain to Lilith? Remember, they talk a little bit about Lilith, how she was pushed out of, I guess, Adam's wife, because she wanted to be on top or something like that, be at the head of man or that entity. How does that relate to what we're talking about now?
Lilith is the womb of religion. Lilith is the representation of religion. Can you hear me?
Yes, sir, I'm listening.
Yeah, it's the representation of religion itself. Hold on for a moment. Okay. It is the representative of religion itself. That's what Lilith is. Why do I say that? Because the presence of maleness being dominant, and when the story about Lilith wanting to be dominant, it is the energy that birthed the domination or the desire for domination that males exhibit. The womb that brought us into existence that we call Eve represents the true essence of enlightenment and what the human is supposed to be representative of. In order for males to, European males in particular, to have this arrogance about them and to feel like they are superior to everyone, they had to have a birth someplace, and that birth, they had to come from a womb, and that womb is the womb of Lilith. That's what I'm saying. Does that make sense?
Well,
I do.
I'm quite sure it makes sense, but
let me
I
say
know what
this.
you're saying.
Let me say this. What we have learned about Lilith in the past came from the same people who gave us religion, okay? Lilith, the idea, and some of the people don't know what we're talking about. Lilith is supposed to have been the feminine energy that was brought into existence prior to what we call Eve. So where did this come from? It is said that in the first chapter of Genesis, when the woman and when he created male and female, this was the creation of Lilith, and the creation of the human is in the second chapter, starting at verse 7. That is what is said. That is what I see, and what I see is the creation of male and female in that first chapter is something I've never seen before. And I see this idea, this principle of femininity with bringing into the earth a male dominance that the earth had never experienced before. And I see the womb of what we call Eve bringing into existence this spiritual energy that does not dominate by gender. It simply dominates the earth for the purpose of enlightening the earth. It does not dominate any individual, collectively or otherwise. So the difference between the two is the birthing of the mindset of dominance and greed and selfishness. And the other one is the birthing of righteousness, mercy, loving kindness, forgiveness, etc. This is something I did not want to get into, and I purposely avoided talking about Lilith when we were in Genesis, talking about the stories about the allegory of Adam and Eve. Is that clearer, Evan?
Yes, yes. And I looked her name up, and it says belonging to the night. So, but
Okay.
what you said does make it makes sense now. I got it.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Anyone else? Okay, Ron, I'm going to be off for a minute, okay?
Okay, anyone have anything else you'd like to discuss? Anything else that may have sparked something from this discussion? I have something that I at least want to introduce. I don't know how much traction this gets. Excuse me. Or what this means. I'm gonna look at 12th chapter Genesis for a minute. And I want to show you something, and it's kind of a supposition, and I'm trying to pull it together, and I see parts of it in what we just discussed about the dream. And I'm gonna start in verse 10 in Genesis chapter 12. It says, now there was a famine in the land, so Abram went down to Egypt to sojourn there, and the famine was severe in the land. And it came about when he came near to Egypt that he said to Sarah, his wife, see now, I know that you are a beautiful woman, and it will come about when the Egyptians see you, that they will say that this is his wife, and they will kill me, but they will let you live. Please say that you are my sister, so that it will go well with me because of you, and that I may live on your account. I think I see something here. I think I see the Kemet Kush is being life itself, and the scriptures are the allegories that help us to see life and define it. And what I think I see here is, what if Egypt and Kush were, well, Kemet, Kush, yeah, Kush were interchangeable, meaning that everywhere in the Bible you see Egypt, you see all the patriarchs, start with Abraham and Sarah, and Abraham has to have intercourse with this thing. And you see that everybody goes through this, even the baby Jesus. And that's what kind of shows me something here. What if this is like this? The example I give is my nephew. My nephew, when he was about 3 years old, one day we were over my mom's house, and he had an ink pen, and he was putting it in the wall socket. And I told him, don't do that. And I told him a couple of times, and he continued. So I popped his hand, and he got mad at me, but he left and came back and started doing it again. So really, then I popped him pretty good. And he got ready to run to his mom, and I took him and I laid him on the sofa beside me and told him to take a nap. So he took a nap. When he got up, everything was fine. The thing is now, though, he has a 3-year-old. He has a 3-year-old. He's moved from the place where that was a punishment, that now he can see that it was a corrective action, that he may have to, not necessarily pop him, but he may have to use corrective actions, or he will on his own children. What am I getting at? Can Egypt be the baby toddler? Can Egypt be that early part of us who only have known religion all of our lives, as Abraham represents? If you remember who his dad was, he was steeped in religion. So can Abraham be that part of us that sees the cramped space, or see the unsettledness that he felt as a punishment, as something that he's not used to and does not see the value in it? And we are the generation of the grown-up Abraham, knowing all along that he never entered Egypt. It was Egypt in his mind. It was Cush all along. Can those two things be interchangeable, is what I'm saying? Can you see that, or am I crazy?
Could what be interchangeable?
Looking at your how you value Cush and Egypt. How you, what mindset do you have? Do you see Egypt when you're in a craft space? Are you at the place of why me and what am I going through? Or do you say, like Jackie said earlier, you don't have to take me out of this, just help me to get through it? Do you see the value in it?
Gotcha.
First of all, doesn't make sense at all. I'm sorry, Pastor.
I'm trying to talk it out in my head.
Okay, I'm next one.
So, first of all, we have to see Egypt as a country, because it's not. So they had to see it. I mean, we have to see it as a state of mind, because when we look at the meaning of Egypt in the scripture, it says a cramped space. Now, why is it called a country? The word Egypt should have been translated with the Hebrew word for cramped space, rather than the Greek word for hakupata. Egypt is what the Greeks call hakupata. So when we look at it as being a cramped space, I do believe that that necessarily interchangeable, but they're the same. They are two sides of the same coin. One side of the coin being cramped, and the other side of the coin not being cramped, but in the exact same circumstance. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. And I see that's what I mean. The two sides of the coin in our minds, you see it as something that makes you feel uncomfortable if you have a certain mindset, is what I'm saying. And are you saying the same thing? But when you reach a point that you see truth that you're going through, you see the necessity of it, and it is a place, really, it becomes a place where you can enjoy your meditation, because it describes a place of consciousness. If you look at it as Cush and even as each, we're talking about consciousness here. So if you see it, it becomes endlessly to you, or it can be something that binds you up and holds you prisoner.
And self-imprisonment, because not knowing that you are free, or self-imprisonment because you refuse to embrace the spiritual essence of enlightenment, and in favor of holding on to the the material world, which creates the cramped spaces, which is a cramped space. And Ron, correct me if I'm wrong, but when you say it's a place, we're not talking about geographical location. We're talking about
Correct.
we're talking about consciousness.
Yeah. Consciousness.
Yes, and we have to begin to shift our mindset from seeing things as being the physical existence, as opposed to being the spiritual reality. The physical existence of Kemet is a manifestation of enlightenment, spiritual enlightenment. The things that we see with our eyes are a manifestation of something that's unseen. Does that make sense?
It does.
And let me give an example, if I may. Before the architect draws a blueprint, he sees it in his mind. It is unseen, right?
Right.
But once he draws the plan for the house still does not exist. It has not yet been manifested. When the house is constructed and completed, that is a manifestation of something that was in the mind of the architect, that you could not see. That's the same thing with this consciousness.
And okay, so you just said something. Pull that together, because you just explained to me anyway why it was necessary that he has intercourse with this. This is his. This Egypt is yours. This is your consciousness, and this is where he finds his comfort. Do you see what I'm saying? I know.
I see that Abraham was making every effort to find comfort in his cramped space. And the excuse that he was making is reflective of the wife being his sister. Now,
yeah,
if you look at the scriptures and read prior to that, you will find that Sarah was a sister.
mm-hmm.
Now, what does that mean? That means that Abraham was making excuses to stay in his cramped space. He liked it. And then when he realized that this cramped space was going to kill him, that he was going to be spiritually dead if he stayed in this place where he was mentally, for lack of a better term at this moment. Yeah. And he started to see the light. And when the Pharaoh, attempted to be intimate with Sarah, what does that mean? It's the cramped space that Abraham is in. He's struggling to understand, to see what he left the land of Ur for. And when the Pharaoh attempts to be intimate, what does he do? The Pharaoh cannot be intimate with Sarah, because Sarah is the feminine aspect of his consciousness. And if he allows the feminine aspects of his consciousness to be contaminated with the material, the manifestation of materialism in this world, or religion itself, if he allows that intercourse to take place, now what is birthed in him is a stronghold of religion, as opposed to him being the religion being filtered out of him by virtue of his desire for enlightenment. Does that make sense?
Okay, because that's important.
After that, he leaves Egypt. He leaves the cramped space.
Yeah. The Midrash says that she does have. I'm glad you pointed that out. That's important. I see that. I see that. Okay. Before I go any further, say the next thing. Does this make sense to everybody? Does this? No. Ask a question, or please.
But it's basically what we've been saying about duality, that there really isn't any duality. It is the way we perceive things, because what we perceived is something for our bad is not necessarily for our bad, but it's to mold us and shape us and to push us and to move us and to guide us towards understanding who we are. And so is it really bad if it achieves that and pushes us toward knowing who we are? No, it's not bad if that's what it does, if that's the result of what it does. It's like a baby in the womb. If the baby had the consciousness and understood where it was, it would say, why am I in this tight, dark space? But on the other hand, that dark space is what nourishes the baby. It's what the baby needs most in order to grow and to become and to be born into this life as a child. So some of those things we see as cramped spaces are the things that we can use. I think Pastor uses the word, it's fodder. It's fodder in a sense for us to use in creating who we really were meant to be. Or I'm sorry, no, not creating, but showing us who we are, who we really are.
Yeah. Yeah.
I have a question. How is it okay to speak?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. How does the pineal gland help us see that we are kindred? The vibration of the pineal gland, does it help us see, or does it allow us to see that we are kindred? We are spiritual.
That's the only way you're going to see it. That's the only way you're going to see it. You would never be enlightened without the pineal gland. If they take it out of your head, there is no enlightenment. That's our third eye. And people who have a stronghold or have a chokehold on this material world and these individual events in individual lives, and cannot see the broader picture of mankind and everything, are people who are not able to see with the third eye, with the light of the pineal gland. And regardless of the skeptics who say that that's not the third eye, please understand that white people believe it too, so y'all can too, okay? The scientists say that light enters the gland, is in the gland, but they don't know how it gets in there. So what am I saying? When it comes to religious people, if we were Europeans, it would be easier for us to get people to believe us, because the majority of people have been conditioned to believe that anything that the Europeans have not said to them or taught them, they need to be skeptical about it, especially when it comes to spirituality and religion. And there is nothing that the European can teach about spirituality because he knows nothing about it. And so what I'm saying in essence is The bottom line, I should say, is without a pineal gland, there is no hope for enlightenment. The pineal gland is a physical manifestation of a spiritual eye. Can you see that, Ellen?
There's a bell. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. Any questions about that? Comment, please. Let me add something to that.
Okay.
When we talk about religion, it doesn't matter whether we're talking about Christianity, Islam, Buddhism, Judaism, it doesn't matter. All of them are the same. And people are getting tired of religion. There are people who are seeing through the third eye who don't even know that a third eye exists. They're tired of religion. What's making them tired of religion? We have put into the macro a burden of light that they're carrying now. And that burden of light becomes a load that they welcome to carry. It does not remain heavy. It's only heavy when you're struggling with it, but it becomes light as a feather when you embrace it. The church is losing people. Islam is losing people. The Judaism is losing people. All of them are facing a demise. Buddhism is all of them are the same. And what's happening is when it loses people and they are not in tune to who they are spiritually, it leaves them in the gap. There's a gap between the spiritual essence of who they were created to be and the religion that they walked away from. They're not going back to that religion they walked away from. But the task that we have of putting things in the macro allows them in their search for something else to receive the enlightenment that is in the macro. And what they begin talking about is the universe is watching over me, or the universe takes care of me. The universe made this possible for me. And they didn't get that from being on this phone on Zoom. They got that from the macro. Does that make sense, guys? Can you see that? Are there questions or comments about that?
So in a sense, then the pineal gland is a doorway or conduit or connection or to the spiritual, to the macro, to the universe.
Yes. Yes. That's that manifestation of the spiritual eye. We struggle with imagining a spiritual eye. The spiritual eye looks nothing like our eyes. The spiritual eye is the experiences that we have when we embrace spirituality. The spiritual eye, when I say that, or Ron say, or one of you guys say that this is what I've been shown, it's not like you see it like you see a tree outside, but you see it through what you experience as a result of what you have been shown in a spiritual way. Because when we talk about what we have been shown, it's nothing visual at all. It is a vibration. It is a manifestation. It is energy that forms itself into words as we speak about what's there. The seeing is with the spiritual eye. The understanding is with the spiritual eye. The manifestation of the spiritual eye are the words that comes from our lips, because they are the words that make up life itself. The words are a physical manifestation of a spiritual truth. Does that make sense? Or does that bring more clarity to this eye of spirituality?
Yes.
It does bring clarity. Yes.
Thank you.
I want to use it further in my illustration here. If we all can internally go to ourselves and see who we are and the journey, look at what the journey that we've taken. If you see this, this Egypt as being a concept and being your a part of your consciousness, you're expanding your consciousness. What we see then, if we look at our journey collectively as well as individually, you see that all the other patriarchs or all the other parts of this family that goes to Egypt marks a part of our journey. It marks a portion of us that are being enlightened as we walk through this thing, as we sort of shed off the religion and look at it. We really use religion to kind of help us balance ourselves, meaning we were seeing what wasn't true, what wasn't a part of truth, and we were shedding it off, although we were seeing the strongholds that this thing has on us. So as you look at the journey that the family takes and the difficulty that takes place and the building of the family when it gets to Jacob and he has the children, all those thoughts and what all of that represents, and Pastor could probably speak to that more, the 12 sons and the one daughter kind of thing. What you see is we are expanding, we're building, and the wrestling with the angel is when you make up your mind, you know what, I'm here, I see this, and this is worth holding on to. And I shed although you're still in a very vulnerable place, we look at this, or we looked at it, and as I say, collectively and individually. You had to do it individually, or we couldn't have done it collectively. There had to be buy-in to all of your members, meaning your mind, your thoughts, your heart, all of that had to be. So that's the wrestling that you see Jacob with. And what that wrestling does, you go all the way back to Abraham, where he stood between the house of Bethel, and he stood within the town or the place called Ai, and Ai being the rubble, it being waste. What you see when you get to Jacob is you've built a new value system. Your values now does not contain religion. Your values now does not contain those things that your father valued in your father's house. It does not. Yeah, you now valuing male. Your consciousness is changing. So you move on to this, and I had some stuff in my head, and I can't remember it all now, but you move to the place where Jesus is. That's our beginning. So I made my mind up. This is what I want. And if you notice, the last time they were in Egypt, they were in bondage, but Jesus does not go there for bondage. He is not placed in bondage. So this marks our new beginning. He goes there as an infant. He goes there as a baby, as all of us became when we made up our mind that this is what we want. Not knowing what it would look like, but knowing that it was something that we trusted in our heart. and we moved there to that place, and enlightenment started to come. The baby means that we submitted ourselves to becoming. There was no more challenging. There was no more, but I still want to go back and sing on the choir. We didn't have to have those battles anymore. We were fully committed and we were becoming. So you don't see him again until he's 12 years old. And that number 12 means something. He's at the age where that place in life where that commitment is there. This is who I am. This is what I want to be. Nobody else can tell me who I am. This is what I see, and this is what I'm going to pursue. So as he pursues this thing, we don't see him again until he's walking fully into who he is. And I think that's what Egypt is. And when you get to the point where Jesus comes out of Egypt, it is no longer Egypt to us. And of course, I'm talking metaphorically, right? And we recognize now that we are fully in Kemet. That mindset has changed. That consciousness is totally different. So the Egypt, and that's why I didn't know any other way of saying it, is interchangeable, because it becomes something else to you as you follow yourself through this journey.
And that's the reason Jesus used the word etapta.
Yeah.
That's the reason Jesus used what?
Hakupata.
Pastor, where was that? We studied that. And
Mark, isn't it Mark?
Yeah.
I think it's the fifth
Seventh
chapter.
chapter.
Seventh
Seventh chapter. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But didn't Jesus also go back to Egypt when he was 12?
That is said that he did.
Some
yes.
of the historical stuff I've been reading suggests that that's probably where he went, because he wanted to.
But go ahead. I'm sorry.
Well, he wanted to study the scriptures, and he couldn't really do that in Jerusalem because the priests there were basically teaching religion, so to speak, because they were appointees of the Romans. The high priest was chosen by the Romans. He wasn't really in the lineage of the high priest. He was just chosen by the Romans to be the high priest. So he was basically, and all the priests there were basically teaching religion, so to speak. And I think because of who Jesus was, he wanted something more than that. Jerusalem became his cramped space. Anyway, so I think he went to Egypt and studied there when he was in those years that we don't hear anything about him.
Yeah.
Because there was a Jewish population in Egypt historically, and there was a temple in Egypt where the priests were able to indicate that they were from the line of Aaron. So anyway, just wanted to point that out.
Thank you.
May I offer something? I try my best to use Jew only when I'm talking about Judaism. And he went to Kemet, the place of enlightenment. That's where the Maccabees were. And that's the reason John knew it, because the way he was dressed like the Maccabees. So you're right, he did go to that place to get enlightened. And look how long it took him. And if you do the math and read the history, That's how long it took someone to be taught the mysteries by the Maccabees. That's how long it took Aristotle to learn what he did, learn from the instructors in chemistry. It took him, what, 20 years. So if you do the math, it's what, about 18 years. Am I right?
18, 19 years, yeah.
Yeah. So that is all of this is in line with the spiritual truth of what Audrey was saying. All of it makes sense. All of it makes sense. Now think about what she just said. Jerusalem was this cramped space.
Jerusalem was this cramped space, yeah.
What is Jerusalem today? Religion fights over Jerusalem. Christians, Jews, Muslims, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can you see that, Ms. Audrey?
Yep.
That's why it was this cramped space, because the energy of religion permeated his environment, and he had to get away in order to be who he was created to be. I'm done.
Any questions about any of this, y'all? I think there is a relationship of what we're learning about Cush and Kemet, what George introduced us to, and now we can't get away from it because we see that it is who we are. It is truly who we are, and the allegories of we call the scriptures is help us to see that, to give picture to it, give pull it together without looking at it as just a history. This is who you are. This is your history. This is more than a history. This is spiritual, and this is help us see the awakening that we are to do when we pull these things together. So this is so much more than.
Well, history is the story of humans in the earth.
Yeah.
And when you couple spirituality with that, then you have the divinity that resides in the earth. Make sense?
Yes, sir.
So that's why it's important to understand the allegories of the scriptures, but at the same time, understand the reality of what was taking place during that period, with the Romans being the precursor for Christianity.
Yeah.
When they appointed the high priest, Caiaphas, they were it was the precursor, but not only religion, but doing it the way you want to do it, because the priest chose to be who he allowed himself to be appointed, rather, because he knew that he was going to have power, because his mission was to keep the people in line. Is that not what religion does?
Yeah.
Same thing.
It has
same
been
principle
ever since.
Yeah, same principle. And that's why people flocked to Jerusalem, or to what is now called Israel. It's heartbreaking to see people dressed up going to this place to be indoctrinated into something that does not have a positive effect on their lives at all. To be indoctrinated into something that actually builds a wall between who they really are and what's being offered. It's heartbreaking to see that, to experience that, and to see them go over and over again. Because if you think about it, when our grandparents and parents were in those spaces of church, their belief systems were different. They were not looking for notoriety. They were there searching for peace, inner peace. And they actually lived the principles. They took care of their neighbors without having to be told to. Today is different. This is pure intellectualism, pure religion, without any sparks of spirituality at all. And all religion is cerebral. All religion is intellectual. None of it is spiritual. And to this day, the spiritual essence that our people held on to has been drained from them. And now they are being kept in line through these intellectual messages that come from a seminary of exploitation and a commentary of dehumanization. I'm done. Thank you.
Thank you. Any questions about what Pastor said?
No, this is Evelyn Long, but I have a comment, and I'm done after I say that. Pastor spoke, well, to me, he made a declaration. I don't know if it was a Saturday or a Sunday. He talked about what had happened to him and what he was feeling. To me, I feel like it was a declaration, and it ignited me. It for some reason, things just shift. I mean, things just mentally, things were just not the same with me. But the more we talk about what's happening, the more I see the change. It's like things are just changing real rapidly. And I looked up what the word declaration means, and it means the formal announcement of the beginning of a state or condition. It's a change. And that's what I'm feeling right now as we speak, as we're getting this soul food on Saturdays, Sundays, and Mondays. I just want to say thank you, everyone, everybody. I'm just grateful to have you guys, the family, the spiritual family that God has placed us in or placed me with. Thank you. I appreciate all of you. And I don't know why I had to say that, but that's just how I feel. Because I wouldn't be where I am right now if it wasn't for you, for us. And I don't take what I learned lightly. This is my life. This is who we are. So I just wanted to put that out there. Thank you. And I can't thank you enough.
Thank you.
That's all I wanted to say.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Appreciate that, Evelyn, and I feel that way too. I sometimes you don't have words to say what you feel, what I get from this group, and I appreciate everybody as well. Thank you, George Clark, sir. I apologize. You've had your hand up for a while there.
No, Ron, I mean, so much has been said, and I just need to at least start with what Evelyn just said. When Pastor mentioned I am Kemet, we talked about the power of I am. And that declaration, that affirmation, in terms of what you put after those two words, is who we are. And if I am Elohim, if I am Hekapatah, if I am, not if, I am, then I think what we're receiving has so much power. And I secondly want to just say, in terms of what Audrey mentioned about Kaaba, she mentioned that Ka is spirit and Ba is the body, it's the soul. I just want to read, something, and maybe I'll do this at another time, Ron, because again, there are 7 characteristics of a soul that starts with Ka, and it's so powerful when we can appreciate that the Ka is the principal spiritual essence. It is the animating force within the human that connects all living things with each other, from plants to animals to humans. The individual Ka is a microcosm of the universe, which is the macrocosm. Now, the spirit, the Ka, demonstrates that the human being is of heavenly energy as well as earthly matter. The Ka, the spirit, acts as the glue that keeps all aspects of the soul united. The Ka possess magical and mystical powers. The spirit is the force that gives the soul its wings, allowing it to resurrect at death to fly into the next phase of life in the eternal temple of immortality. I wanted to just read the Ka because it ties to the 7 characteristics of a soul, and that 7th principle is Atmu, which is the ages of uniting the 7 souls. So it all is relevant, but I just wanted to speak of it in terms of the Patah is our original ancestor, but it speaks about the 7 souls. And so at some point in time, we'll continue to evolve in this. But when Audrey mentioned about Ka and Ba, and I think that there was another word that she mentioned, but it's all connected. So I just wanted to share those thoughts in terms of Kaaba in relation to what Audrey said. I'm done. Thank you for letting me just read that about the 7 characteristics of the soul. I'm done.
Would you be interested in starting there tomorrow afternoon?
Yes, that's fine.
Could you explain that? Okay.
Now, yeah, we could pick up on it because I think it relates to the ages of what we're speaking about, and we can talk about that tomorrow. That's fine.
Thank you, George. Did you have something?
I was just going to say thanks, George. But the other one was the myrrh, which is the light.
Yes, the light. There you go. Thank you.
Wow, thank you. And that's a good place for us to take a break here. And a lot has been said today. And part of all of that is I am grateful to you all as well. I think Evelyn summed it up very well. So thank you for everything. And I hope you got a thought from this. Any questions or comments, tomorrow, or send me a text, and let's make sure we try to clear it up anyway. Okay. But thank you. I hope you all have a great day. Enjoy the rest of your Sunday, and look forward to seeing you tomorrow.
Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye-bye.
Have a great day.
Thank you.
Ready?